We're here to talk about the 5 ways to make hybrid workforce work. So a lot of the genesis of this webinar was we're getting a lot of feedback from friends, from clients that are friends, saying, "Hey, the plan is September, October. We're going to shift to a new way of working. So we're going to expect more people back in the office. We're going to have a bit of a hybrid work environment. Some people working remote, some people working from the office a couple days a week, that sort of thing." So we thought we could be useful and say, what are the 5 ways to make that work better? Right? So just to introduce ourselves, which is always a useful thing to do, I am joined by the affable and very talented Mr. Jermaine Clark. Welcome, Jermaine.
Thank you, Brendan. Happy to be here again.
Jermaine is our Director of Intelligent Technology Consulting at Techify. My name is Brendan Howe. I'm the CEO of Techify. We do these webinars the 3rd Wednesday of every month. Unless the webinar is in September, we're going to do it the 4th Wednesday of the month in September, just because of where Labor Day falls. We've got a poll up. I see everybody's been, or at least most of our attendees are doing the poll. Our goal with these webinars is about half an hour content. We stuff a whole bunch of content in. We try and keep it about half an hour, and then we take questions. There's a Q&A panel which you can access and put any questions that you have in that Q&A panel, and we'll come back to them at the end. All right.
Brilliant. So, and just in case, I'm sure some of our attendees have caught it, today is actually Thursday, and we know we did that on purpose.
We're just trying to mess everybody up, right?
Absolutely.
So we had a slight scheduling conflict yesterday, so we needed to move it one day. But it's good to see lots of people joining, which is awesome. Just a quick note: our next webinar. Holy something! Tech has changed a lot. We've seen in the last year and a half just a sea change in technology in terms of. It's kind of like, it's been like 5 years, really. The last year and a half just stuffed into a year and a half, and massive change in terms of how people are working technology. They're using applications, cloud applications, security, all that sort of stuff. So we figured we'd do a webinar in September and just talk about what other companies are doing to keep up. So you should be able to walk away from that webinar and say, is my company keeping up, or we're falling behind? Here's what we need to do to keep up. So it'll be a good webinar. As always, hop onto our webpage, techify.ca/webinars, September 22nd at 1 p.m. We will see you there. All right. So I came across this Deloitte Insights report, their Tech Trends report. A really interesting quote. As we were preparing for this webinar, I thought this was really useful. We used to have kind of the days where corporate strategy and technology strategy were different, and technology strategy needed to support, your overall business strategy. Well, we're very quickly getting into the world of technology strategy and corporate strategy are very similar, right? Like there's not as much of a difference between the two of them anymore. The other thing that I thought was really interesting as we sort of accelerate through this technology change that's been having in the last year and a half. What Gartner puts out these hype cycle stuff. So the digital workplaces, which is what we're talking about, this big change. And this was their graph. This was from last year, sort of middle of last year, they came out with this. And there's a couple interesting things that I saw in it. So if you look at the graph, they start with innovation and then go to the peak of expectations, and then what they call the trough of disillusionment, and then slope of enlightenment, and then the plateau of productivity, right? So plateau of productivity is where things are working really well, and so we're not overhyped, and we're not discouraged. We're just doing it. So saw the collaboration devices and meeting solutions have moved into the slope of enlightenment. I think they're getting pretty close to the plateau of productivity. The
Mm-hmm.
cloud office is in the plateau of productivity, and we have stuff like workplace analytics.
Yeah.
Still in the big kind of hype cycle at the top there of our graph. Thought that was really interesting to kind of give us a bit of a sense, given how quickly technology is changing and moving, and the challenges that that we're all having in terms of people working differently and making sure that technology supports that. So we're going to talk about a bunch of good stuff about what to do, but before we talk about all the good stuff, it's the summer. Let's have a little fun. Let's not suck. Here's our goal. We don't want to suck, but here are some examples of how to suck at hybrid work, or the things not to do, depending on how you want to position it. So, number one, don't let your staff spend the first half an hour or hour of each day looking for adapters, docking stations, having connectivity problems, finding mice and keyboards. We found this when we first, a few months ago, we went back to sort of a little bit more of a hybrid workforce. And Jermaine, you remember, it was kind of funny because the first couple of days, there were docking station and adapter robbers going around our office.
Keyboards, mice, even webcams. You set up a station today, you go away for a day, come back, and it's been cannibalized. Somebody needed a dock, somebody needed a wireless keyboard and mouse, somebody else needed a webcam. All gone. And we were playing this whole game of Breaking Bad with computer equipment for about a month.
Yeah, and we learned, especially given the supply challenges that are out there with computer stuff, we learned you got to make sure that each of your stations are outfitted and they're ready to go. Here's a personal favorite of mine. Don't think that using that old Polycom phone in your boardroom and bringing in a laptop is going to lead to an effective meeting. Because you're going to have some people that are going to work remote, and the days of torturing people on the other end of Jermaine, you know what it sounds like on the other end of that Polycom phone when you're not in the office, right?
Absolutely. It's a little bit of sorry, could you repeat that please for the third time, because I could not understand what was coming through.
Yeah, that we used to have a Polycom phone in our company that we bought in 2008. It looks just like that one up on the screen.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure, obviously, we don't want to do that. We don't want to torture people. Next, hey, if you're using the same software from before COVID, BC, as you are now, if you're using the same tools, the same software, the same technology from BC, it's not going to work, because we're working differently. We're doing everybody's been going through this digital transformation, right? If your inputs look kind of like what's on the screen here, that's not a good deal. Okay, and then one more, cybersecurity. We need to make sure that we don't allow staff convenience to drive our security policies instead of best practices, right? Absolutely. Just because you have a staff member that wants to be able to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, to give sort of a dramatic or ridiculous example, as a password, doesn't mean you need to do it. Or if somebody thinks that multi-factor authentication is a pain in the butt because they got to use their phone and approve a login, that you can't let convenience to that level drive your security policies, because you're going to have all sorts of problems.
Yeah, I would also take a look at that employee, because if you need to write down a password that's 1 through 8 to remember it, you might have a bigger problem than the password issue.
That's true. That's a little sketchy. and I'm a bit concerned about that marker sitting on the keyboard too. Like, that thing's going to drip, and yeah. Anyway, all right. Let's move on. Let's talk about 5 ways to make hybrid workforce work. make hybrid work. We got five different. So what our goal is today, we wanted to give sort of 5 concrete ideas, things, ways that you could make kind of transition your office, make it more effective for your staff, make your staff happier, get that morale up, get that productivity up, and get that security up a little bit too. So Jermaine, do you want to start us off with number 1?
Happy to do it. To ensure the transient worker in your hybrid workforce can effectively use your office space, it must be configured for ease of use. That's the first thing. So we're going to talk through a little bit of what we would consider to be the ultimate hotel desk, right? And for us, ultimate means you come in and you do the least possible work to connect to it, which excludes looking for a webcam, trying to find a docking station, or trying to figure out how to work in an open space again because the office is noisy or otherwise. So we want to enter what we think is a nicely little packaged, what your hotel desk should look like and what it should contain to ensure that anybody coming into the office can just simply use one cable to connect to their laptop, and then it allows them to have a wireless keyboard, headset, docking station with Ethernet connectors, monitor. And if you look at the monitors is the sweetest part of the deal. It's got the webcams built in. You can flip it over front and back. It's got built-in speakers. It's got everything on it. It even charges all your stuff, right? And the microphone, no microphones needed. So if you wanted to have an open room meeting, you can just turn that on. Everything's there. And if you need a little bit of peace and quiet in your ear, then you can put on your headset. So we'd want to have them make sure everybody has, at least if your capacity is going to be 10 people or 15 people or 40 people, you need to have 40 stations that can basically anybody can sit anywhere and work.
Well, Jermaine, I think we're all spending a lot of time on the HR side of things, but I think some companies aren't thinking as much about some of the little details around certain computers don't work with certain docking stations, certain connectors or adapters or different things like that. That those little details make all the difference from somebody being able to walk in the office and just plug in and start working to spending the first half an hour of their workday trying to deal with all sorts of annoying technical problems and nonsense.
What model number do you have? Is this the model number that works with this dock? I don't know.
That monitor is pretty cool. Is that an expensive monitor?
You know what? It's not too expensive at this point. Average monitor cost today is about $200, $225. This one's about $100 more, but has everything built into it. So even if you don't use it at the office, it would make a great monitor with everything built into it for your home office.
Yeah. That's cool looking. I like it.
It is.
All right, let's move on to number 2. What's our next suggestion for the hybrid?
Well, let's go back to the Polycom. A great way to facilitate a true hybrid virtual / in-person meeting is to have excellent audio, great video, and some form of way to transmit your voice, video, and everything properly to the people on the other end, right? So if we look at our previous slide around the Polycom, the 2 guys in the boardroom are talking to each other. We can see their laptops. The person with the Polycom in front of them is using their laptop to show you the other 2 people. And it's just not conducive to the person on the other end of the video stream looking at 3 or 4 people within this meeting room. Can I hear you? Can you hear me? Is your laptop broadcasting? What's happening? So what we want to have is a great boardroom setup that will allow you to not only listen, see, screen share, but also to receive awesome audio, video coming back to you from that boardroom.
And we all know so many of our boardrooms have crappy audio, have crappy video. And part of the challenge that we've looked at, like it used to be that you would have to get one of those like Cisco present systems that were like $20,000 or something like that. And it was kind of crazy. And you've got some options that you wanted to take people through that are a little bit more in the reasonable range.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for something, first place I'd want to start is Logitech. right? I'm sure if we were to do a poll today, there's probably one person out of our entire attendee list that doesn't have or have had some form of Logitech camera, microphone, or otherwise. The Logitech Meetup is great. It's great for rooms. You know, you're looking at a couple hundred square feet, something that's a small boardroom to medium-sized boardroom, or even an open space. You can just have this mounted fully with your visual display in wherever it is. As an example, we use that at Techify. Our kitchen space where we have meetings is fairly open. We've got the TV with the Logitech setup. We've got clear audio, 180-degree camera that zooms in and looks at people when they're talking. And you can put that in a small boardroom and see everyone in a table facing that camera. Great. And it's under 3,000 bucks. No problem there, right? You take a look.
It's been really useful for us, and we've now used this for at least a couple of years, I think. Actually, sorry, I felt like, I think it was a couple of years before COVID. So a couple of years BC. That's right. And it's just, and we've been telling all sorts of clients that this is a good solution to get because it's so useful. It eliminates the audio issues, the video issues. It's pretty straightforward to get it up and running.
Absolutely.
It's nice.
It is really nice. And the other option that we would want to take a look at, if you're a big Teams shop or a Zoom shop or a Cisco kind of WebEx shop, and you want to have something that can govern your meetings, you come into the room, it's always set up, it's pre-configured. All you do is come into the room and you look at the meetings that are available. You tap on it, the microphone and everything's built in. Okay. You sit around your small meeting room table, 3 or 4 people, you're having a conversation, you add the next person in, everybody can see the screen, and you go from there. And you can even see, based on the schedule, who already has that meeting room booked, because the meeting hub has, you know, boardroom 1, boardroom 2, or, you know, like us, we've got boardroom ping and boardroom pong. So it just makes sense as to which one you're in. And it's easy to come in. There's no, which cable do I connect? What button do I push? You just hit start meeting and you go, right? Very unique, very well within the small business market. You can see something like that will be very useful for you. And then the next one I wanted to talk about, one of my favorites. I only came across this one recently because Brendan and I were attending a virtual / non-virtual in-person conference where he was there and I was here. And we came across this, the Meeting All Pro. This is, again, one of those all-in-one, turn any room into a meeting room kind of scenarios. And instead of using the AV and paying thousands of dollars to the event location, someone brought an owl in and they were like, hey, don't worry, we've got this sorted. They put it in the middle of the room. The owl has 360-degree view of the room and can pick up audio, and it automatically zooms in and puts the person in the frame that's speaking at the forefront, so you can see who's speaking. And if 2 people are speaking and they're talking over each other, they put them both up together. So it's a really great solution. Again, on the market, available, does not cost an arm and a leg, and can turn any room into a great meeting room.
Jermaine, I see this too. So it was super useful for that event that we were at. I think it's also having the mobility and the flexibility in your office. Say you've got a group of designers and there's 4 people just kind of huddled around their desks, and you've got one person working remotely. Well, you don't have to like up and everybody move. Just pop that thing down on the desk, and all of a sudden you can see everybody in the pod, or, you know, maybe you're in a kitchen or wherever you are. And then you can have an effective online meeting, but still within that collaborative kind of studio-like space that a lot of people like to have in their offices.
Yeah. Well, look, all of this equipment, setting up boardrooms and hotel stations are all nice, but it all goes out the window if you don't have a good system in place to make sure that you can meet and have those fun meetings. So why don't you take us through our next one?
So as people work more and more in this hybrid work environment, online scheduling systems are really important to make hybrid work effective, right? And so I wanted to show you a couple different options for hybrid work scheduling systems. Excuse me. One is Microsoft Shifts. So here's the scenario. Maybe because of the way people are working, they're working differently, and it's taken a little bit more time and effort to figure out what are people's work schedules, how do we know who's working when, what shifts, that sort of thing. Here's an example in Microsoft Shifts, cashiers, floor leaders, what day of the week they're working, what time, really easy to see. Microsoft Shifts is built right into, you can build it right into Teams. It doesn't cost anything extra. It's also a potential solution for if you have an environment that, say you have a capacity of 20 in your office, but you have 40 staff. So you want to be able to have some sort of tool where people have to book in if they're coming into the office, so the office doesn't get over capacity.
Right. Yeah.
And this is a great solution for that. It allows you to do that sort of thing. And I think we're all, as our business costs continue to go up, I think we're all going to be looking for some solutions as part of technology that we're already paying for that we can implement. Here's another example. Microsoft Bookings, also included within Microsoft 365. With Microsoft Bookings, you can use it to book resources or book time in the office or book space in the office, or you can just use it to simplify the scheduling process, right? Jermaine, none of us like that kind of emailing back and forth and, hey, how's Tuesday at 3 p.m.? No, I can't do that. How about Thursday at 1 p.m.? Like, it just wastes a ton of time, right?
Yeah. And based on that, you've got 47 emails going back and forth. You can put the strength in and the power in picking the meeting time into everybody's hands by just sharing the link and saying, here are all my available times. And Bookings is by no means the only thing out there. There are tons of them that are not free, doesn't cost anything else, and that would integrate with your Microsoft suite or otherwise. So it would be advantageous to have something like that for your organization.
I think the bottom line here is, you have to, these days, you have to have some sort of scheduling engine that's supporting your business. Otherwise, you're just going to waste a boatload of time, both you and your staff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Should we talk about number 4?
I think we should, because we're doing a whole lot of stuff with applications and equipment, but there's an underlying theme that we got to work with here, and how do we protect it?
Absolutely. When people are working remote and in the office and going back and forth between the two, we all need to realize that the cybersecurity threats are higher. They're bigger. We need to do more to mitigate against the risk because with people moving back and forth, and even the new environment, like just cybersecurity risks are way bigger because the number of state-sponsored, organized crime-sponsored actors out there that are making tons of money through email hacks, through ransomware, through wire fraud. Like I'm sure everybody on this webinar has heard the stories. So the most important thing to have in place is securing your environment, having a process that's constantly auditing, reviewing, and aligning your environment against best practices. So when you audit, review, and align to best practices, then you can build out a cybersecurity roadmap. And we're showing here the Intelligent Technology Cybersecurity Roadmap. Here's a summary of what the journey we're taking clients on. Mm-hmm. And that journey includes, like at a basic level, you need multi-factor authentication in place. That's not an option anymore, right? But we want to start getting into we secure that network and cloud infrastructure. Then we get into looking at security analytics and policy management. And then we start talking about access management, authentication security for locations, people, and devices, right? We want to create security that if somebody from Russia has our username and password, and tries to log in and hack our system, or somebody from some other country, it blocks them because it knows only our computer is allowed to log in with that username and password, right? So you have policies for cross-border access. access. You defend against phishing, whaling, social engineering through, you're basically helping your staff defend against what could happen, right?
Yeah.
And then wire fraud, there's a technical side of this and there's a non-technical in terms of your policies of making sure that nobody sends money anywhere without verbal confirmation. Okay, and then you're auditing, reviewing, aligning. That's super important in this environment.
Yeah, the worst thing you can possibly do is set something up and forget it. Right? That's going to be a recipe for trouble in the future. You've got to review it, make sure it's continuously up to date, and that it's current with the challenges that you're looking to protect against.
Absolutely. All right, Jermaine, let's last, but definitely not least, let's talk about number 5.
Well, number 5 is near and dear to my heart because, again, looking at this, a great way to ensure that our teams are hitting our goals, meeting the company growth expectations, is to have an excellent productivity line of tools in place that can allow them, whether they're functioning at the hotel desk at the office or their home desk, to work and be successful and productive in the same way, right? And with that in mind, like whether you've seen some of our other webinars that we've conducted, and we've dug into a lot of these over the last year, the primary foundational things that you want to have in place is a great way to communicate. So we'll start there with our Teams phone system. Teams is built into your Microsoft licensing already. Your phone system, whether you're on the regular telco, you're using Polycom or Cisco Fancy, doesn't matter. A great way to ensure that people can communicate properly is to have everything in one place so that they can see everything in a single pane of glass. Join someone to a phone call if you're on a video to video chat. Have a dial-in, right? Teams phone's important. It allows you to be able to, on the go, receive, send, deliver via email, voicemail, anything straight out of the same application, and be able to call someone to get your verbal confirmation for your money transfer.
Yeah, Jermaine, it's amazing. It still amazes me to this day. You call businesses and there's a voicemail that says leave a message in the general voicemail because we're working remotely. Or somebody answers the phone and says, no, I can't transfer you to Sally because she's working from home.
Yeah.
And
then somebody calls in at the end of every day to check the voicemails to make sure that they didn't miss the largest business deal of their life, right? So
yeah, hi, I'm calling to talk to Sally because I got $1 million business deal that I'd really like to talk to her about. Oh, you can't transfer me. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go call somewhere else. Bert has Teams phones. So the other thing too is as we go through this whole thing is being able to work more efficiently. If everybody's all over the world, and we've got as in our example, a leadership team, we want to be able to have things approved, signed, and delivered without having to wait. In the old days, we'd walk around to everybody's desk and go, hey, I need you to review this. Could you sign on the dotted line? Now what we can do is using something as simple as approvals, again, already available with your current Microsoft Suite and Teams. You can go ahead and assign persons to review and provide their commentary and feedback on a document and approve or reject that document. Right there comes to a single place. And now you're able to have something sent in for signature, approved for payment, and moved to the next level for procurement. Amazing. All within the same place, but nobody's next to each other.
This is part of that digital transformation. Jermaine, you just saved me half an hour a week or more.
Done. You double that with mine. I don't need to just do it all together. The other way that we would want to continue to leverage this, again, available, Microsoft Forms, right? During COVID, we saw with our in-office, out-of-office hybrid policy, we needed to make sure that our contact tracing was clear. Now, again, you can use these forms to gather any kind of data you want, whether you want to do a survey on what type of office chair you want or plan an event and pick a location. You can use forms, create something in minutes that can go out and be in place for a long period of time. So as an example, we've got our screening questionnaire set up. There's a single printout at our office on a stand that has a barcode. Somebody comes in, they scan it, they fill out the form, and then we get all of the information, contact, everything that's required. In the event that we have an exposure at our office, we know who are all the people that were there on which date, and what their contact information is. Very important. Very
And
important.
the real power of this is the back end. You can automate workflows on the back end. So not only are we just collecting information, but we can set it up. So for example, with our COVID screening, if anybody answers yes to a question, there's an email that goes out to a whole bunch of people and says, hey, we have a COVID issue, right? If you think about your workflows, anywhere that you collect data, that's similar data on a regular basis, you can put it into a form, and then you can program workflows to automate notification processes, delivery, analysis, what have you. It's super powerful.
Even if you just have it say, alert, 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 someone answered yes to question 9, COVID alert. That person doesn't get to come into the office, right? So it's super important to set those up and automate it. Absolutely.
For sure. There's a couple of things we want to get rid of, right?
As always, our theme since last October has been the death of VPN. No more VPN, right? But we've since added one more to that, because again, in my past life, I was an environmentalist, and I like doing things that don't require me to do too much extra legwork. So we want to get rid of email attachments. No more email attachments, right? Unless, and there's no email attachments.
No, they waste time.
They waste time.
So much time.
Everywhere.
Different versions and emails back and forth. And
who's got the current revision of, document 5 out of 300? That is the actual one we're supposed to be sending to the client.
Send a link.
Right?
Send a link.
Share the document.
You mentioned the environmental impact, though. Like, how can email attachments have an environmental impact?
Well, believe it or not. So if people are like, I don't care, I want to go ahead and attach my document, just consider an email being sent is like a courier running from point A to point B. Okay, so if the courier has the informational link, it's really quick. You can traverse, from here to somewhere in the US, from Toronto to New York, no problem. Then you attach an email that's 10 megabytes or something in size. All of a sudden, the courier is carrying 10 kilograms on his back, and he's got to run from here to there. So in the energy that is required to transport that file from point A to point B, which means internet speed, energy generated along the route that it takes, the internet service providers that it jumps between before it gets to New York, all of that actually is the equivalent, and this can be verified in the internets of things. It's about 1,000 miles of a car driving. The amount of environmental carbon dioxide being put out by sending that attachment is the equivalent to someone driving a car for 1,000 miles.
So it's funny, that stat that you just mentioned is actually 1 year of unread email attachments. That's equivalent to over 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers per office worker. So that's not even the attachments we're reading. There's like you generate 50 grams of CO2 for every email with an attachment.
50 grams. That's crazy. That's a lot. So
right.
If your staff don't want to stop doing attachments, just use the environmental impact. It'll help.
Absolutely. So where are we putting our data?
So, well, you want to put it in a central location where everyone can collaborate and work on it. And today, whether you're Google Docs or your Microsoft 365 SharePoint, you want to have it in a centralized location. You want to ensure that when you share out that link, the person can come in, edit, add, update, and you can see that happening in real time. And then at the end of the day, nobody's attached to anything. Everything's in the same place. And really, there's only one current version of the document you're working on, right? SharePoint's the way to go.
All right, what else is there? We're getting a little bit tight on time, so we're gonna wrap up here with a couple more slides, and then we're gonna take some questions. So if you have questions, please add them to the Q&A panel, and then we'll circle back and answer everybody's questions.
Good. Our attendees have been great. They've already been posting some questions, so I'm excited to answer those. Well, the last thing that I would want to add to that, and again, we're still bringing this back up to how can we make sure everybody's productive, saving time, and not doing all the stuff that just wastes their productivity time throughout the day. The last one that I would want to mention here is Task by Planner. Again, available with your Microsoft Teams subscription that you have already. When you get in there, very simple. You can set up any kind of project. Based on what I have here on display, you can set up we've got a university, a test demo, a webinar demo, and you can put any project or any plan that you have in place that you'd like to execute. Even if you're planning the return to office party, you know, who's in charge of what? I'm going to assign something to Brendan, assign something to Adam, assign something to myself. And you just add all the objectives onto there and people can knock them off the list. And then overall, for your entire organization, you can see a simple panel that shows you every person that's participating, where they are along the chain of completing those objectives, and how far along in terms of a timeline you're going to have until you need to get to that completion date. So super useful, very easy to use. The entire video that you can do online to learn how to use Planner is like 1:30 minutes. Not very long. And then you can go from there. So that's it for me. I'll pass it back to you, Brendan.
So awesome. When just a couple quick housekeeping items before we answer questions. You'll get a survey when you log out today or when you disconnect from the webinar. Please fill out that survey, give us feedback. It will help us as we plan out the different webinars and the focus that we go on to in the fall. We get lots of feedback already from our clients. The more feedback, the better. And then a reminder, holy shnikes, tech has changed a lot, is our webinar for September. Keeping up with the change, how you can keep up with everything that's changed in the last year and a half, what other businesses are doing, and making sure that you're not falling behind. As always, should you wish to contact the good-looking person to my, I don't know, left or right or below on the screen, depending on what Zoom is doing. On your computer, there's Jermaine's contact information, there's my contact information. Feel free to reach out. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our questions. So I have, where do you want to start, Jermaine? Should we start with that cybersecurity question?
I think so. That's a good one. Yeah.
All right. So in discussing cybersecurity, looking at some HR systems, want to mitigate sensitive information via emails. I've heard Bamboo HR, which is an HRIS system, is decent. What are your thoughts? Any others?
So why don't you give some thoughts to that? Because I provided some thoughts on that one earlier this week, and I'll just corroborate. But you can go ahead and give someone that one.
Okay, so we've been using Bamboo HR for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years?
4
years? Wow. I think there's something about kind of BC.
Skipping over 2020. As if it didn't exist. Yeah.
I just like, I think everything is 2 years ago because the last year and a half, I don't know. I'm just whatever. I hear you. Making sure is a really good question from Tyler. Making sure that the information that you have isn't just emailed around. We've had a lot of success with Bamboo HRs and HRIS. I know some folks are using ADP. Those are useful, and it can keep that data. It can take it out of spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So having salary information, employment dates, personal information, maybe you're doing vaccination records, all that sort of stuff. Taking it out of those spreadsheets and different parts of your network and out of email and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Having contact information for your staff, valuable. We also use it as a applicant tracking system for hiring, for new hires, right? So when somebody sends in a resume, it's a centralized place for it to go as opposed to going into emails and stuff like that. We found quite secure. We're very happy with it. We like Bamboo, but there are other systems out there. The one that we have the most exposure with is Bamboo. Jermaine, I know ADP is another one people are pretty happy with. Anything else that you've heard that folks are using?
I mean, there are a couple of other companies that specialize in it. What we would want to do, I will ask again through some of our clients who are using a couple of the other ones, just to make sure I get good feedback from them before I recommend a couple, but I'll pass on a few more names to Tyler as well. There is another follow-up question that I think relates to the same one. Albert wanted to know if there's a vacation planning system available in any of the software. And again, Bamboo HR, it has vacation request management. It tells, it has calculations around how people can, how much time they can accrue for vacation time. You can set it up and have different vacation tiers for persons that have been at the company longer or otherwise. And then a person would submit that vacation, and there's a public vacation calendar available that shows everyone in your organization who's off when, so that people can see that and they can make a plan if we can't have two people, as an example, off in the same department for the same period of time.
Yeah, so we used to have, before we started using Bamboo, we used to have this like spreadsheet that would have everybody and would say how much vacation they got. And then we'd have to, somebody would remember to have to reduce the number, or say when they took vacation, go in and add it.
Then they'll come back and say that, but wait, that's not true. I didn't use 6 vacation days. I only used 2. And all of that's gone out the window, Albert. You'd want to be able to use that part of the application as well.
Yeah, so Albert, reach out, like if you want to chat, either Albert, Tyler. I know Tyler, you're already talking to Jermaine about that stuff, but both of you, please reach out and talk more. We've got a couple of security questions. Maybe we'll take the, well, let's do a couple more questions. So we have a question. Senior people in my company think MFA is too bothersome. So we have a question, how do we change the mindset? And then there's another security question that just came in from Patrick that we'll hit up in a sec. But okay. Well, Jermaine, how have you dealt with this kind of issue when the senior folks of the company don't want to use like their phone to authenticate, or like Duo, or stuff like that?
Something. Yeah. Okay. So this one's an easy one. The mindset has to come back to not necessarily what the challenge is with using the MFA, but realistically what the challenge is with not using the MFA. So the approach that I've seen so far that has been most effective is drawing the reference from having an exposure, how it affects the bottom line of the business. And I guarantee you, there isn't a single senior person at any organization out there that is not concerned about their bottom line being hit hard by losing, let's say, $10 million in a fraudulent wire transfer because your person's password that we saw earlier today was 1 through 8 written down and stuck in their keyboard. And the UPS guy came in, stole the password, and then did social engineering and got them to email $10 million. So now he's on an island somewhere. And that could have been stopped.
Hold on, this is just an example, fictional example. We never
100%
UPS would ever steal money or any of its employees.
Let's go with air removal transport. There you go. So that doesn't exist in real life. So whatever way you end up getting socially engineered, even if your password is 1 through 8, the best way to connect those two things is, do you want your company to lose money, or are you going to spend the extra 10 seconds to swipe down on your phone and hit approve so that you're protected by multi-factor authentication? And that's the biggest motivator, keeping your company successful and profitable.
And I would add to that corporate strategy is driven by the most senior people. And we saw that one of the reasons we started with that quote is that corporate strategy there's a risk mitigation strategy in any corporate strategy, right? So cybersecurity is part of that risk mitigation strategy. The senior people in your company need to be bought in and be part of that. Okay, so we're at 45 minutes in. Should we do 1 or 2 more? Maybe we'll do 2 more questions. Patrick's question, let's stay on the security front. How can we control sensitive and confidential data saved to personal devices while working from home?
All right.
I think there's 2 parts to the answer.
There's 2 parts of that, 100%. All right, why don't you pick a part that you want to go with, and I'll take the other one.
All right, so, well, look, there's the easy part. Just, Jermaine, you jump in when you want to jump in. There's the easy part of let's try and stop people from using personal devices, right?
Don't work in your own piece.
When we talk about mobile phones, though, everybody's going to have personal mobile phone, right? And so we do need to protect the data on that phone. So and you can't do it with old technology. Like the old days of on-premise servers and domain controllers and file servers and stuff like that, that's not going to protect that data in a world where people are using some personal devices and some corporate devices, right? You need to be accelerating that digital transformation, as a lot of companies are doing right now, and creating new security policies, leveraging cloud-based technology,
Yeah.
so that you can protect that data.
Yeah. But the question is how, right? Well, once you've got what we would want to say as an example, if you're in the Microsoft space as an example, what you have is Azure Information Rights Protection. So any document that's considered as sensitive can be marked as sensitive. That's one. Two, it cannot be emailed as an attachment, because you can actually put a policy in place to stop people from being able to email it, right? We turned on the policy for one of our clients a few months back, and we got an ecstatic email from our point of contact, and his email was, guys, whatever you're doing is great. One of our staff tried to email something that looked like their SIN number from their work email to their personal email, and it stopped the email from going. Right? So they were trying to send an email with what was considered as sensitive information, and the policy stopped it. The other part is having your document library deposited in SharePoint as an example. It doesn't matter where or which device the person is using to access that file, all of the same security permissions. The file cannot be emailed, transferred, downloaded, all of that policy still applies. The device is just the window that you use to view what's in SharePoint. So there are a number of ways. There are personal policies, device-driven policies, and they're like document policies themselves that you can copy the document off, put it on a flash drive, give it to someone, and they plug it into their computer and try to access the document, and it says access denied. You do not have permission to access the document.
Let me add one more thing. Mobile device management, using Microsoft Intune. You can leverage Intune and mobile device management. So if all of a sudden I lose this phone, or I'm no longer working at the company, through using Intune, being able to manage devices, I can delete all the information that's corporate off of this phone, even though it's my personal phone. You can delete all that and protect the phone. You can brick a phone, right? You can, there's all sorts of stuff that, so the answer to Patrick's question is there's a bunch of stuff that needs to be part of your security roadmap.
Right.
To protect
you. Yeah.
Information, for sure. Okay, we're gonna do one more fun one to end off. Jermaine, I'm gonna lob this one over to you.
I'm ready.
Okay, you ready? My IT guy says I need a new server so that people can work remotely better, but it seems like other people are getting rid of servers. So should I be getting a new server? So this comes from Mike.
Okay. So short answer, Mike, is no. Okay. The details behind the answer is if you'd like to have all of the security that we answered in Patrick's question, that we answered in the cybersecurity from the HR systems question, and that we answer around multi-factor authentication. And when you think about your security, a person would need a VPN or something to access a server. Okay, so you're going back in time. The second part of that is once the document is on a VPN, it's transferred from point A to point B. The person has full control over the document. There's no way to enforce policies at that point. And the other part of it is why invest in infrastructure and hardware when you can have all of the storage, performance, service, and everything for a smaller amount per day or per quarter or per year that is more cost effective than purchasing hardware for a server every 4 years. So it comes down to a cost aspect, it comes down to a efficiency aspect, and it comes down to a security aspect. Don't get a server. Look at a way that you can eliminate that and work in a more collaborative, secure, work from anywhere environment.
So I just wanted to say, Tyler, Mike, Albert, Patrick, thank you very much for your questions today. We appreciate it. If anybody has any other questions, any follow-up questions, please reach out. Thank you everyone who attended the webinar and who is watching the recorded version of it. We hope this is useful. Please provide feedback. We'll continue doing these webinars, continue providing advice and guidance to folks so that they can use technology better. Jermaine, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. And again, thank you to all of our attendees and the people that will watch this at another time. Hopefully it was entertaining and useful.
Everybody enjoy the rest of your summer and have a great day.
Take care.